Well, hello folks. You're watching GMODISM and I'm back, sorta. You might have not realized I have been gone, but actually I got a pretty serious infection a while ago. But I have been to the hospital and gone out of there, and I have been slow in recovery at home. So I'm slowly getting back to production, and it seems that I will be able to make full recovery without any permanent damages to my body, which is good. If you want to know more about this, please check out my 2024 update. It will be on the end screen of this video. But let's move on to this actual video. You are forgiven for not checking out my vlogs. But in any case, we're going to talk about some great tips on how to make a winning battleship designs. Because, as you have seen, we have had a lot of Gimli battles. Unfortunately, I recorded a bunch of them before I got sick, so you have been entertained all this time. But I will soon record some new Gimli battles. I have lots of DMs from you guys with submissions that I haven't saved down, but I will do so in the coming weeks and start recording new Gimli battles again. But for some tips for winning battleship designs, let's go. The first tip we're gonna cover is redundancy. This is a winning design. The Cataclysm from Pizza Summoner. If you haven't watched that Gimli battle episode, you should definitely do so. And one of these strong points, it's a very good redundancy. You can see we have 6 cannons and each of the cannons have 4 barrels. This makes it so it's very unlikely to lose its firepower. And if we turn on this little cutting mode here, we can see inside the ship. We only have one AI core, and I think it's best to have the AIs on different locations too, so that you will always have some firepower left. And I'm not 100% sure this doesn't have that, but in any case you can see that the turrets are stacked up here very nicely, and they also come in here with materials and engine power all over the place. So if we take this up into the air, you can see here we have engine power. Oh, and look here, I think this is AI components. Yeah, so all the AI components aren't at the same place, and we have we have some steam power there, here, and all over the place. Basically, it's spread out over the entire ship. So this vehicle is very unlikely to lose power. It's also unlikely to lose propulsion because we have so many aipods here. Yeah, I thought I remembered correctly. Here you can see we have different AI compartments. They're side by side, but they are pretty well isolated like that. So the redundancy of the Cataclysm makes it so that it survives battles much better than many other designs submitted. You probably already know that the Gimli has a lot of redundancy, but I thought it was fun to show it on a vehicle that actually beats the Gimli. So yeah. And the next point we're going to go through is another winning design, the 10 Commandments. And that is the point of bulk. Bulky designs that are not compact, where there are a lot of different blocks to target, like this thing. You can see in here, we are not very likely to hit anything important wherever we aim. So this design has extreme bulk, and that makes it survive a lot longer than any compact design could. Now, if you can see, the 10 Commandments is huge, and the Gimli is already huge. The Gimli does utilize a lot of bulk. It really does, but the more bulk you have, the less likely it is that anything important will be hit. So don't build too compact, basically. You will suffer. A little intersection about battleship. What is even a battleship? A battleship is of course a role in a fleet, but in From the Depth I think it's useful to think of a battleship of a ship that has at least the cost of $500,000, and for practical reasons it should probably not be larger than 3-4 millions in cost. The Gimli and its challengers are max 2 millions in cost. But in any case, it's one of the larger ships we'll build in From the Depth, and a lot of people can't even spawn in battleships of this size or super battleships. And all the tips we discuss in this video are of course for naval battleships, so air battleships have some other rules that we need to take into consideration, but for naval battleships these are the tips. The next tip is really good displayed with Sean Reed's Jormungandr, and that is most of your important components will probably be a lot safer underwater. So if you place your components under the waterline, like Sean Reed has done here, like everything of importance is in boxes and those boxes are below the waterline. Basically nothing exists over the waterline. And that is because cram shells and APS shells will be slowed down or bounce on water if they don't have any attachments. Also, if a laser goes through some water to reach you, its damage will be decreased. And missiles will have a trouble hitting you if they can't find you really good from a radar signal, or if they come from a low angle and can't really find a place or an angle to hit you at and might just skip by or get stuck in the water. So low profile is really good for that reason, and the components that are under the waterline are more likely to survive. This can really be seen when we are fighting the Gimle, and you can see the challengers that are doing a pretty good job. They are absolutely shredding the Gimle's superstructure, while the things under the waterline remain more intact. The third point is that passive float is always better than active float. Passive float means floating by using floaty materials. This is a little secret project that I will show you more in the future, but it's a little battleship structure I started on before that I will hope will be able to beat the Gimle, but more about that will be in future videos. But in any case, passive float is always better than active float, and this structure has a lot of wood. So it is floating by itself, doesn't need any engine power to float. To passive float we also have water pumps. It's not as good, but the reason why you shouldn't use water pumps for big vehicles is that water pumps actually cause a lot of lag, so your FPS might be suffering so bad that you can't even use them. So I'd say try to go for passive float if you want to save some engine power, and you'll save a lot of cost. Now the Gimle doesn't have passive float. The Gimle uses active float. That means propellers, like these, going upwards. And the upwards propellers that the Gimle has require about the cost of 100,000 engine power constantly to keep it at the right water level. This is not efficient by any means. However, up props like the Gimle has causes a lot less lag than water pumps. But if I'd add a water pump inside the Gimle just like that, we are like saving so many materials per second because we don't need to spend 100,000 engine power to keep this at this level anymore. It's pretty insane. But if the Gimle had passive float, it would spend so much less materials per second all the time if it just had more wood, and even though we would get damaged, it wouldn't sink. So when you add water pumps, you kind of start to sink when the enemy punches hole in your hull. Kind of makes a lot of sense. But also it's not really relevant for battleships because water pump just lag too much, so you know, try to aim for passive float with lots of wood. Like the, I may have removed that, but the Jormungandr we looked at just previously does also float with passive float, which is great. Alloy and wood will be your friend when you're trying to reach a passive float. Just spam alloy and wood, and if that doesn't work, you'll have to resort to up props. But know that that's not the best way to do it. So our fifth tip will be displayed here with the Cataclysm again by Pitts Sumner, and here we can see a pretty standard armor scheme. So we mostly have alloy, which brings that passive float, and we have some heavy armor here where it matters, and around the AI and around the turrets. And this standard armor scheme works really well, and many people use it because of that. But I will also say that you might be surprised how well it works to go for cheaper materials. So don't be afraid to try, because a lot of successful designs are only using wood or wood and metal. Gimli beats most of the ships sent in, and it relies on thin metal backed by lots of wood. Yes, we got some alloy on here, but by block we're using a lot of wood on this structure, and it works pretty well. So wood and stone can be good additions to an armor, and remember that metal is a little bit better than alloy. Even though you don't think it looks like it's much better, the numbers add up. Yeah, so if you don't really need that alloy float, have metal on the outside. Even the Cataclysm we looked at over there does have a thin layer of metal outside of that alloy to protect it a bit too. So the next point I'm gonna show with my upcoming project here, and that is don't forget your air gaps. So air gaps will help you against heat and HESH. Having spall liners helps against HESH. And between the air gaps it's good to have a little spall catcher to catch any fragments. Having several air gaps can help you against armor-piercing heat shells as well, and having several air gaps and several layers, like we have on this little ongoing project design, will actually help you a lot against plasma, because plasma is a weapon that was specifically developed to be able to kill heavy armor bricks, like your average frontsider sandblasters and stuff like that. So don't forget your air gaps, and if you're facing armor-piercing heat or plasma, you probably want more than one air gap, maybe even 3, like in this case. Our 6th tip is that don't armor anything that doesn't need it. Like you'll spend a lot of materials on having big sheets of armor when you don't have anything special behind it. And the Gimli does this really well. So if we go in here and select little cutter, you can see here that the Gimli has all the armor on the right side, and that's because it's a right-sider. We have absolutely no use to having any armor on the left side, because if the enemy comes to our left side, it's kind of game over anyways. And on the turrets here, you can see we have heavy armor in the front, but we have just a very thin secondary fragment sheet of 1 meter metal armor behind the turret, because well, if the turret is not aiming at the enemy, it's probably dead anyways. And here you can see I only put my staggered era armor in front or where the turrets are. They are not located anywhere else inside of the belt. They are specifically there to target specific turrets, or in this case, the main AI compartment. So yeah, be very selective with where your armor goes. You don't need to armor everything, just armor where it matters. A front-sider should have the armor in the front, and a one-sider like this should have the armor on the side that is facing the enemy. And of course, the AI core needs a lot of armor, because if you lose that, it's game over. But if you have several engines, well, as you should by redundancy, you don't need a lot of armor, just some basics so they don't pop off too easily. The 7th tip is also very well displayed with the Gimli here, and that is to not forget to EMP insulate your AI and turrets and detection. So here we can see some auxiliary detection which has EMP insulation. We're back at the Cataclysm, and you can see if we zoom in on the turrets down here, on the turret base, rubber block, little computer. We even have a redundancy auxiliary computer there, which is not protected, but here we have a computer right there, a local weapon controller, and it's EMP insulated from all sides. That's great, because otherwise we could have killed this big bad turret with just some EMP charges. Solved. Problem solved. A lot of people are angry about EMP, and that's mostly because they kind of forget or don't care about EMP insulating, and somebody brings EMP and they die and they get angry. So just do that and you don't have to get angry. So here we go, and we also find the AI core, of course, or AI cores I should say, which are neatly protected with a layer of rubber here. And if you use this is a really good tip. I think it was from Belkent. You'd use wedges fronts like this, and you can kind of look and see inside your AI, even though they are coated with a layer of rubber there. We also have some surge protectors in the corner there to take up any charges, because of course a charge can go through a rubber block. It's just very, very, very unlikely. So that's a really good EMP protection there. Our next point is pretty interesting. Here we have the Drakenslang 1.5, which actually beats the Gimle. Now the Drakenslang 1 and the Drakenslang Mark II, they did not successfully beat the Gimle, but this middle version does. And it has a very particular loadout here. We have, if we look here, we have cram cannons, and these cram cannons make the bulk of the damage against the Gimle. These go through pretty often after a little while with 184 health on this shot, which is designed to shoot first, I believe, to take the bulk of the flags. And it also is a set up with frags and high explosives, and the other one with slightly lower health, 150,000, which is still a lot, is designed to definitely blow up more kind of inside and not miss. So they are definitely causing a lot of damage when they go through, and they are really hard to take out. So in fact, like, if you have seen the winning designs that does win against the Gimle and how Gimle squashes most opposition it has faced, one of the winning factors has been the really strong cram cannons. Now the Gimle also has some really strong cram cannons here, and the Drakenslang from Borderwise definitely has that. And these do the heavy lifting, I will tell you that. They are very good, and big crams are very well paired with lasers too. So if you can lace on the enemy for a continuing amount of time, here you can see we have some laser systems inside of here. I don't remember where exactly they are located, but they are located a little bit here and there. But anyways, laser and cram is a super good combo. Some other people have found success with sand blasters. So we have an unofficial submission, the water-based frontsider, which beats the Gimle using sand blasters. That works too. APS sand blaster. And some people have found success with using armor-piercing chemical rail guns, or rail-assisted guns rather. But a lot of people think they are better than they are because of the BBS 5th season, which is good, but you know, crams are better in general against big ships. Some people also has found some success with large missiles. While it didn't win, we saw some really scary results from, let's see here, Archangler's ships. I think 2 ships had that layout, but Brimstone Rain it's called. That battle is out too if you want to check out some really scary large missiles. But in any case, in general, if you don't know what to do, go with really high health crams that will explode inside the enemy, and pair that with some good lasers and you're good to go. For our 10th point, it is something that both the Drakenslang and the Gimle has, and that is to have a lot of aipods. Now we have some special case aipods here in Drakenslang, and it's of course a lot faster, which made it be able to go on the other side of the Gimle. The Gimle has a lot of aipods to be able to keep the maneuverability decent, but even with all these aipods, it's not maneuverable enough to be outmaneuvering the Drakenslang. However, this is a one scenario thing. The Gimle has been maneuverable enough to deal with any other ship so far. So having aipods in general will make it so that you will be able to be maneuverable enough to turn and move decently fast. Also, don't be too slow. Like, you don't need to be very fast, but 10 meters per second, I mean, yeah, it's probably a little bit too slow, yeah. The Gimle ain't super fast, but 26 meters per second is reasonable for this type of ship. However, the Drakenslang would beg to disagree with 92 meters per second as a pretty high speed, which makes it outrun and be able to get on the wrong side of most enemies. Our next little tip is actually do not spend too many materials on active defenses, like anti-missile missiles, LAMs, and AA guns, or anti-munition guns. So the Gimli is a little bit guilty of this. We have too many anti-missile missiles. It's a good idea to have some anti-missile missiles, like check them out. We have turning thrusters. That means they are set up in a good way that they also hit cram shells, which is nice. If they can't hit cram shells, you probably should ditch them. But it's good to have some of them, but if you're having too much, it just costs too many materials. And the next point is LAMs. Having LAMs is probably not worth it. The Gimli has some pretty strong LAMs, and that is because the LAM system of the Gimli is actually connected up to the damage laser. A lot of people are advised against this, but I tested the Gimli with the LAMs connected and with the LAMs not connected. That means that the version with the LAMs not connected is dealing more damage per second because the damage laser is active. Now we're leeching from the damage laser, but even if we did that, the one with the LAMs won. But having a separate LAM system probably costs more than it's worth. And your best way of dealing with incoming cram shells and stuff is of course not actually LAMs. when you're gonna deal with incoming cram shells, they have so much health. You'll actually need to use some pretty insane guns like diff guns. Having kinetic anti-munition guns is usually not worth it because they don't hit reliably enough. You need to use flak. And the only way to use flak that actually makes it worth your materials is direct input feed. So if we just check this cannon here, this is a direct input feed anti-munition gun. I have tutorials about this, of course, and the shell looks like this. You can see it's flak head, it's flak warhead body with a timed fuse. And the gun itself has like 4 direct input feeds. That means that each barrel provides 5 shots in total. If we drag up the gauge here, we can see the damage of it, and you can see it's 32,000. So take a border-wise shell of 180,000 health, divide that by 32, and you'll see approximately how many shells you need to even take it out. So understand that having diff flak guns will only save you a maximum amount of 5 times, and you'll need a good couple of them to even defend you against one shot. But having that will make you not die in the beginning of the battle and can save you some valuable time of taking out the enemy's weapons before they hurt you. So you get a good couple of minutes of survivability by having a lot of diff flak guns. So that's a good idea to have. And I just also want to say that the next tip is do add some decoration. And that's a really good tip I really want to share with you. A little decoration goes a long way. Some paint and some decoration, some mimics and some banners. And that will make you feel a lot more proud when your ship goes up on the battlefield. I would definitely just have some effort in the decoration. The Gimli has a lot, of course, but just have some and you'll be much happier. Also, huge thanks to our commissioned officers in the army of GMODISM who are in active duty, even though the content has been lacking a little bit because of my health condition. But thanks to Admiral Scoob Rocks, Commodore Owen, Lieutenant Anto, Cravey, Parbag Reed and Vincent Veritas. So there we have it, my tips on how to basically build a battleship that is more likely to win than your battleships might have been so far. So I hope it was useful, and I really like that little tip with decoration. You know, having some will make you feel a lot more fun about your design showing up. You know, you don't need to do a lot, but just a little bit. I think you will like it. You will like the feeling of that result, I think. But in any case, that's basically that. Of course, I'm not back like at 100%, but I'm slowly kind of getting there, trying to get back to making all the content in the series, but do have some patience, of course, with if it takes a little bit time with your series to show up or continue. But anyways, if you want to know kind of what happened a little bit, you can check out like here. I put a video about the 2024 update and I'll just cover a little bit shortly what happened there. But yeah, in any case, if you want to support the channel, YouTube membership now offers you early access to all the videos whenever they are out, like directly when I upload them, you can watch them straight away. So that's pretty cool. And other than that, I also added a third little option, which is Fourth Wall has a support option where you can support the channel with the least amount of transfer fees and anything like that. They have the best terms, like for me, they take the least cut. So if you just want to support the channel and just not getting anything back, that sounds weird, the Ministry of GMODISM now exists. And some of you have asked for that before. I don't know if you're still with us, but now the option is here anyway, so you can check that out. Yeah, anyways, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope it was useful, and I'll see you in future videos. Yes, bye.